America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. I come to you when I come to you, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about libertarianism. You're going to have to get a lot of these things clear in your mind over the next 4 years, because it turns out that the GOP is the party of ideas, and they have a lot of ideas, and unless you can deal with their ideas on their level, their ideas will be better than your vacuousness with respect to our political world. So libertarianism in general is going to be the idea that the government only exists to protect property. And if the government gets bigger than that or gets over its skis a little bit, or if the eyes become bigger than its belly, it either becomes inefficient in trying to do whatever it tries to do, or even more nefarious, it gets captured by any private interest who then get to use government against you. So you have a big bloated government, and then some evil corporation captures that big bloated government and then aims that big bloated government at you for its expense. Right. So one of the virtues of libertarianism is that it'll keep the government small so that it can't get captured by a nefarious interest. And also, it turns out that libertarians will tell you that people closer to the action have a better kind of sense of what's going on in the action. They have what's called, how it calls, time and place knowledge, that you don't need some sort of central planner over in Washington, D.C., or Springfield, Illinois, or Sacramento, California, or Albany, or wherever. You want to come say hi to the people? Hey, there's my daughter.
Hi, people.
Hi, people. Hey, what's up, kiddo?
We met some cats and kittens on the way there. Can we go back
and then pet the cat and the kittens? Where? How far away? How far away?
Do you know? It's just on the edge of the bend of the Keepy house.
Oh, just okay. Okay, that's pretty close. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Try to be back in 15 minutes. Okay. All right, I'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, so libertarianism, the government gets too big, and then when it gets too big, it's captured by some sort of private interest. And then they aim the government at exploiting you for their own private interest. Or the government gets so big, it's inefficient because it doesn't have the quality of time and place knowledge, which Hayek will say, time and place knowledge is someone who's actually on the ground and is used to dealing with the things, so they know how to do it efficiently. But when it comes from a central planner way out in Springfield or way out in Washington, D.C., or way out wherever, it's just not going to be as efficient as if it's someone on the ground who actually deals with it. So you need a small government. So it's not captured, and so that it doesn't use its inefficient, inadequate knowledge in order to do what it's trying to do. All right. So, so that's going to be the general appeal of libertarianism. That way, you're not going to have a government that thinks it's its business to tell you what to do and then get captured by some private interest that has a very clear idea of what you should do in a way that benefits it, not you. So that's one of the virtues of libertarianism, or two of the virtues of libertarianism: the time and place knowledge versus central planning, and the inability to get captured if the government is small. Now, the vices of libertarianism is that you don't have any protection from the market or any other private interests that are directly coming from your institutional forms, right? So I've said before that parents, as family members, need to understand that their job mostly is to protect their kid from the market, from outside civil institutions that have designs on your child or your house or your life or your household, and you need some sort of government that's going to protect your kid. And, I did a show before about how Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, somehow had a son who became a daughter, and is not happy with that. Somehow he calls it the woke mind virus, turned his son into his daughter, and now he no longer has a son. And I think his daughter's disowned him. And the richest man in the world couldn't protect, and he thinks the richest man in the world couldn't protect his family from the woke mind virus, so he needs the government to protect him from the woke mind virus. And there's a little bit to that insofar as one of the purposes of family is to protect your loved ones from the market in general and marketing in general that might exploit your family in a way that's good for the market actor, but not necessarily good for you. So you need a government to help to protect you from the more nefarious aspects of market society, right? And libertarianism has a hard time accounting for why there shouldn't be like a strip club next to your kid's elementary school, or why there should be a difference between the dark web and the web. They'll say that like, well, you should just watch what your kid is on the internet for. and if you have a problem with the Juul dispenser outside of your kid's junior high school, then that's on you. Don't use the government to try to get Juul out of a 50-yard radius from your schools, right? So the libertarians don't have an answer to that. The libertarians don't have an answer to that kind of problem. Maybe come say hi to the people. This is my daughter. I come say hi to the people.
Hi.
Well, you gotta speak into the microphone and into the camera.
Hi.
Hey, so you want to go to the pool?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to the pool with? Are you just going to go by yourself, or are you going with a mom?
I want to go with the family.
If you go with mom, and have you talked to your mom about it?
No.
Okay.
I was wondering if we're gonna go with family.
That's actually a pretty good idea. All right, let me finish this show, and then we'll skip to the pool and get our laps in.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right, say bye to the people.
Bye.
All right. So, the problem with libertarians. The problem with libertarians is that they're going to shrink the government so much that it can't protect your family from market influences, which will, predate on your family and your family's way of life. Right, so that's going to be a problem. You want a market that is big enough to secure. You want a government that is big enough to secure your family from market predations. Right. So the answer to this is going to be delegated authority. Right. So you get rid of the central planning problem by delegating authority to different either market or family actors, non-government actors. And you delegate that authority to them and in a way that you can't really check them except on certain parameters. Right? So the government should delegate authority to families for families to do what they do. You can't just say like, well, no government, and then like let the market feed on families. No, you delegate authority to families. So you need to explicitly say that like, no, this is a family right. This idea that my friend had a daughter whose boyfriend's parents got her on birth control somehow. That's ridiculous. You saw my daughters. I would be very upset if somehow I found out that some other parent had the authority to get her on birth control. That would be upsetting to me as a parent because that's my authority. So you need the government to delegate authority clearly as family right. And then delegate authority to the market as like, this is what we're going to let the market work out. And so it's a government that's big enough to protect families and churches and market institutions from the predations of each other. But you don't have to worry about it getting captured because it doesn't exert direct authority on those institutions. It delegates authority to those institutions to determine themselves. Right? So I don't have to worry about Washington, D.C. telling me what to do with my family, because it's delegated authority of my family and over my family to like me as a family member. Right? So you get rid of the central planning. You get rid of the central planning concern by delegating authority to non-governmental institutions. And delegating that authority in a real way so that those non-governmental institutions can go back and check government power. Right? So once again, One of the virtues of libertarianism is that it concerns that if the government gets too big, a big private entity will take over the government, capture the government, and then use the government to aim the government at you. One of the problems is that your institution still needs protection from the government, from other non-governmental institutions. We need protection from the market, from some of the ravages of the market. Our families need protection. Not just our property holdings. Our businesses need protection. Our families and businesses are two big deals. Even art needs some sort of quality of protection from market influences and, parochial family desires. So these institutions need some sort of protection from the predations of each other. And that government protection needs to be, like a government protection, but it doesn't have to be centralized. It can be delegated, right? So the left answer to libertarianism isn't to just expand a central government. It's to expand a government and have that government delegate authority to non-governmental institutions like families, churches, or, whatever, markets. So you have a government that protects the predations of one institution from the other along clear parameters and is not centrally planned, but explicitly delegates that families get to decide, family stuff. A libertarian's going to have a hard time being okay with a government big enough to keep, my daughter's girlfriend's or my daughter's boyfriend's parents from getting my daughter birth control. Because that's going to seem like an expansion of the government. It should all just be on the market and the government only exists to protect property. But we need a real left government that actually doesn't have a problem with delegating to me authority over my family. Right? Such that no, the market doesn't have authority over my family. No, like other sort of like civil actors don't have authority over my family. No other person's artistic vision or no other person's church has authority over my family. I need the government to delegate to me authority over my family. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense, right? So the answer to the boogeyman of central authority is saying is admitting that central authority is a problem. You don't want a central authority because central authorities are inefficient and central authorities are easily captured. What you do want is delegated authority. To families, to markets, to churches, to non-governmental institutions, to protect those institutions from predating on each other, but still empowering those institutions to realize the self-determination of the members of those institutions. Right? It's kind of like the answer we came with federalism. All right, so libertarians, if you don't watch out, the socialist libertarians get the idea that you need government intervention, but still call themselves libertarians so that they'll have the government be centrally planned and give out goodies to individuals, give out all sorts of goodies. They'll give out all the goodies. So now all these individuals are no longer dependent on the institutional authorities or institutional forms that we want to uphold. I don't want the government giving my daughter's birth control, without going around me. That undermines my family. Right? So the socialist libertarians who think, well, how can anybody not like us because we just want to give everybody all of the goodies, don't understand that some goodies should only come from some delegated authorities. And I don't want the government giving to everybody every goodies without that person going through the delegated authority. Right? Arguably, this is one problem with socialized medicine, because if it guarantees medical care to everybody with regard with how they produce on the market, then you have a society of makers and takers. So at least if you get it through the market, you know that anybody who gets medical care has to actually earn it through participating in civil society in a way. There's going to be a problem with that market, with that example, and kind of with that way of thinking. But you have to understand that these are real problems. these are real problems. The socialist libertarian who wants to just give away all of the goodies to all of the people, regardless of those people's fidelity to their non-governmental institutions, is a problem. Like, some things you should have to go through your family for. Some things you should have to go through the market for. And that means you participate in your family in a certain way. You participate in the market in a certain way. Some things you should have to go through your church for. You don't want the government to be in charge of giving away all of the goodies in a way that undermines institutional responsibilities and other institutional forms. I hope this has been clear. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up in the comments. Like I said, for the next few years, you're going to have to get clear on kind of the definitions and the way people are thinking about these ideas. Slick Rick says, socialist libertarian is an oxymoron. No, it's not. I actually explained it right, Slick Rick. You're just not paying attention. Socialist libertarian are people who want to give away all of the goodies regardless of your non-governmental affiliations. They're libertarians insofar as they don't think that the government should have to have a say in your church, family, property holding. They're going to ignore. They're going to get the government out of your institutional forms. They're going to get the government out of your institutional forms. But they also want to give you goodies as abstract individuals. So they'll give you healthcare, they'll give you meals, they'll give you housing, regardless of how you participate in these very important institutional forms. Right? So what I'm saying is that, like, a more robust socialism, a better socialism, a non-libertarian socialism, is that they're actually going to delegate authority to those institutional forms and uphold those institutional forms. I want strong families. I kind of want a strong faith life. I definitely want a strong market. And so we need to actually uphold these institutional forms as so that they don't predate on each other and not undermine them by giving people goodies, all of the services, without their participating in any institutional form, with just some sort of abstract citizenship or abstract individuality. The libertarian socialist will tell you that the government will be able to centrally just give away all of the goodies, regardless of what you do and think and are. And I'm saying that actually a better left government upholds some institutional forms that can be justified as a matter of right, and will delegate authority to those institutional forms. So if you don't want your family to get eaten by the market, you need a government that protects and secures the delegated authority to your family. Right? Socialist libertarian doesn't care about anything. They think of everyone, including children, as abstract individuals entitled to all of the goodies. Would you have a problem with sex education for teenagers in high school? I have questions about sex education in teenagers for high school. I was talking to one of my friends about this, and she was like, "Look, the sex education was actually fine, except for they just kept scaring my daughter about human trafficking. So now her daughter is like terrified of human trafficking and is under the assumption that anytime she enters an airport, she will be trafficked, because every unit had something on trafficking. And if you get to them when they're young, they're just going to be distorted. Sex education for teenagers in high school depends on how robust it is. If it's just general, like, I would like the general, like, don't do it. General, don't do it. Or if you're married and do it, these are the protections that you should have. I think I'm okay with that. Just assume that sex is for people who are in a committed marriage, and then given that these are STIs, these are what you have to worry about. This is all that. This is why you shouldn't be promiscuous. This is why these are all of these things. But for the most part, I'm going to handle a lot of that. And honestly, I'm going to get around a lot of that by just keeping my kids really busy. I'm not going to have to worry about too much of it. I'm just going to keep my kids very, 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 very busy and around people who are also very, 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 very busy. And then I This isn't the 90s, so you can't just tell them that sex will like ruin their life. And I'm not one of those people who'll tell you that having a kid is going to ruin their life. But I think the idea of keeping them very, 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 very busy gets rid of a lot of problems. They'll just be too busy to deal with that. Then they go to college, but they'll still just be very, very, very busy. Have them have goals. So they don't have as much anxiety wrapped around sex as, for example, I did. Now, just keep it basic and kind of glib. And so someone says, I think birth control is important for teenagers. Teenagers are already going to be sexually active anyway, and it stops any unnecessary children from being born. See, I don't think teenagers are not going to be sexually active anyway. Like that's not empirically true, especially with this generation. This generation isn't even having sex. So I wouldn't assume that, kids are just going to be humping around anyway. I think kids without parents are. Kids without daddies are. But I think a healthy bit of, both religious teaching, just the idea that like it's a very special quality of knowledge, and it's not the quality of knowledge you want to share with other people, and it might impact how you bond with other people. So like, you don't just want to give it away to give that quality of knowledge of yourself to anybody. So it's actually kind of a special way to being with someone. Like you could talk to someone about that in high school and it'll keep them away from hoeing around. I think for the most part. And I'm such a strong figure in my kid's life that they're gonna just not date losers, right? It's not like I'm some sort of absentee dad. I'm very kind of conscious. So I don't know. I think there are ways to get around this. And I also wouldn't mind my kids just getting married early to the right people and get rid of a lot of this nonsense at the beginning. So, just a little bit of religious teaching. Apparently the Unitarians do sex education very well. So maybe I'll just send them to some sort of Unitarian week. You can tell me in the caps if I have this right. But I've heard from multiple people that whatever the program is for Unitarians, they have a pretty good system. So I might look at that and just do it myself. I do a lot of that's pretty much what I do with a lot of the religious education. Like we did Catholic Catechism, and it was just me and myself, and we just walked through this stuff myself. So. I'm not really super worried about it because mostly my kids are just going to be busy and have other things on their mind if I'm doing my job right. And there's just not going to be a lot of unstructured time. And they're just going to be so busy. Even when they go to college, they'll just kind of keep going on that track because we have long-term goals and everything. So that's why I am with that. But I hope this quality of but irony, their friends will eventually override your influence. No, you're just bad, Jennings Bradford. You're just a bad parent because one, I get to pick their friends, and if you're not picking their friends, you are falling down at your job, Jennings Bradford. Like I don't understand these kind of liberal parents who then are surprised when competent parents don't make the same screw ups that they make. Like you pick your kids' friends. You monitor that. You put them in you say no to play dates with bad people and you say yes to play dates with good people. You monitor the kinds of interactions that they have outside of school. Like you can pick the kind of people who will influence your children. And if by the time in college they don't make very good decisions, that's your fault because you screwed up making them a quality of person who can identify the kind of people they should be around. Or you've just made them, or they followed you and like identified some sort of hypocrisy in your being, and so they've screwed up in how they pick their friends. Right? So if they have trash friends, that's true, they will become trash, but it's your job to make sure that they don't have trash friends. It's your job, Mr. Parent, Jennings Bradford, to make sure that they don't have trash friends. And if you're not up to that job, then you don't know the job of being a parent, which is fine. It's one of the reasons I do this show. It's also one of the reasons you should support this show. It's also one of the reasons you should support this show. It's also one of the reasons it's also one of the reasons why liberal parents are awful at parenting. They don't think they should have to actually monitor these things. And then are surprised when it just doesn't work out the way they thought it would. So you have to have eyes on your kids and on their kids' friends and let them know what's going on, and so that they have the moral center, so that their friends are like going to them for advice and not the other way around. And if you're not up to that job, I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to make these videos to help you do your job. And if you support me making these videos, once again, go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month, and I'll keep doing it so you don't squander their youth. But those are the stakes. Those are the stakes. All right. I got to go hit the pool with my kids, get my laps in. For the record, if you don't know, the kids have already, they've practiced their instruments in the morning. We've already ran a sprint mile around the neighborhood. We've already had a soccer practice led by me and all three of them. And we've already done that. And now I guess we're going to the pool. And then we're going to come home. We're going to do some math, probably a crossword puzzle, and do music again and go to bed. And that's what good parenting looks like. At home, your day probably didn't look like that, but that's a problem. You don't understand that that's a problem, but I'm trying to explain to you why that's a problem. Right? If instead your kids were just watching TV all day or on their phone, instead of being like physically active with you or in some sort of like structured activity, then your kid's going to have problems later on. I'm trying to help you do better. Help you do better. All right. Thank you for your time, and I will talk to you at another time, probably tomorrow. No, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Maybe not tomorrow, but probably Friday, and we will talk about a different issue. Oh, all right. So, no. All right. So Jennings Bradford says, good luck with that, Irony. I don't have kids. My siblings have told my nieces and nephews, don't date this person. Don't be friends with that person. Didn't work. Well, your siblings started too late. By the time you have to tell them to like not date that person, it's too late. It's too late. You should have been programming them from like 4, the kind of people they like should spend their time with. It's too late. By the time you have to tell you don't date that person, like you've already picked a son or daughter with bad taste. They're already around so many. They're already not attractive enough to, or attracted to the winners, that they're attracted to losers, and you can't tell the difference. Like you've already taken your eye off the ball. All right. So I'm just saying. Your siblings screwed it up. You don't have to yet, but it's a whole job and not something you just kind of leave to the market. And something you actually need, in some ways, government help to order, to order. Government help to delegate authority to you as like the head of the family to be able to do. Right? So you need government help. And that's kind of how it circles back into the problems with libertarianism. That doesn't provide, for example, families protection from market influences. Assumes that your property is enough, but your property isn't enough. If Elon Musk couldn't keep his son from turning into his daughter, and he really wanted to, then you, regular person, do not have control of your family from this world. You don't have, like, without some sort of government protection. And this is one of the reasons why the GOP won kind of the trans debate. But that's fodder for another video. All right. Peace.